It is a profound silence that first greets you in the deep woods. This quiet is not peaceful, but heavy, a vast emptiness echoing the abandonment of a creature only hours old. The fawn, still slick from birth, trembles under the low branches, her instincts useless against the cold reality of being utterly alone. Her mother, gone. Her scent, a fragile beacon in a world full of shadows. How do you survive when the very instincts meant to guide you are overcome by a desperate need for a mother's warmth? Now, let's enter their world. If you're already enjoying this story, a quick like and share makes all the difference. Let us know in the comments where you're listening from today. We travel now to the expansive, rolling landscape of a private sanctuary in upstate New York. This is the world of the Phelps family, a small, devoted clan whose life is dedicated to the stewardship of animals. The sanctuary is a place of second chances, but even here, nature sets the boundaries. It is a world governed by ancient, invisible rules, predator and prey, domestic and wild, and the relentless logic of instinct. Their largest resident is Kate, a formidable Great Dane, all rippling muscle and deep mahogany coat. Kate is a creature of immense loyalty, but fundamentally domestic. Her world is the fence line, the family's touch, and the routine of the house. She is a dog whose life is one of comfortable predictability, one that has never required her to look past the boundaries of her own species. But on this crisp morning in the late spring of 2005, the line between the wild and the domestic was about to blur forever. Isabel Phelps, the family's youngest, was walking the perimeter when she discovered the fawn. It was tiny, almost impossibly delicate, nestled deep beneath a rhododendron bush, a perfect portrait of vulnerability. It was evident the mother was not returning. Perhaps she was a casualty of the nearby road, or perhaps she was simply overwhelmed and spooked. Whatever the reason, the fawn was a textbook rescue case. Dehydrated, frightened, and utterly alone. Bringing her inside was a simple act of compassion.
You're safe now.
The small deer was named Pippin. Isabel and her family quickly began the grueling routine of round-the-clock bottle feeding and constant warmth. They knew the risks. Fawns are fragile, prone to stress, and sometimes, no matter the effort, they simply do not make it. The greatest struggle, however, was not physical. It was emotional. A fawn needs constant comfort, a mother's presence, and a sense of belonging to imprint correctly. In the absence of a deer, the Phelps family became her stand-ins. Then, Kate came into the picture. Her initial approach was one of detached curiosity, sniffing the unfamiliar scent with the measured reserve of a large dog. But as the days passed, a change began to occur. Kate, the Great Dane, whose ancestry was tethered to hunting and guardianship, started displaying an unexpected, deep concern. She would stand vigil over the box where Pippin slept, nudging it gently with her vast head. This was more than curiosity. It was a stirring of an ancient, powerful instinct that lay dormant until this tiny, spotted life appeared. The world of the domestic dog was shifting, opening to the needs of a wild, delicate soul. The change, when it finally arrived, was subtle, yet definitive. One afternoon, Isabel placed Pippin on the floor to stretch. The fawn, driven by a primal need for tactile reassurance, was disoriented. She stumbled, seeking the impossible. But then, a large shadow fell over her. It wasn't a threat. It was Kate. The Great Dane gently lowered her immense body to the ground, a gesture of submission and comfort the size of a small sofa. Pippin, recognizing the universal language of warmth and safety, took a tentative step toward the dog. The fawn began to nurse on Kate's ear, a misplaced but powerful signal of connection. Kate responded not with confusion, but with an instant maternal acceptance. She licked the tiny fawn clean, nudging her into a protected hollow created by her own body. The wild instinct to flee was overpowered by the pure, nurturing instinct of the domestic dog. This moment marked the true beginning of their shared existence. The human family was now merely the providers of milk. Kate became the mother, the protector, and the ultimate sanctuary. The bond was forged not in shared blood, but in shared need. The early days of their bond were a fascinating study in interspecies parenting. Kate, the massive Great Dane, became Pippin's constant shadow. She was meticulous in her care, grooming the fawn with patient licks, keeping the delicate spots on Pippin's coat clean, a behavior usually reserved for a mother of her own species. Pippin, for her part, internalized the lessons of her canine mother. She followed Kate everywhere, a tiny, spotted echo of the giant dog. When Kate would patrol the fence line, Pippin would mimic her gait, trotting faithfully beside her. As Pippin grew stronger, their activities became more playful and complex. They would chase each other through the tall grass, a playful, silent ballet of unlikely friends. Kate would feign surprise as Pippin would butt her with her small, soft head. It was clear that the fawn saw herself as a dog, and Kate reinforced this identity. The human family observed in silent awe as the fawn learned to sleep, pressed against the dog's warm side, seeking the comfort only a mother could provide. The sounds of the house, the slam of a screen door, the clatter of bowls, never startled Pippin when she was next to Kate. The Great Dane's presence was a shield, a silent promise of safety. Their world became an anomaly. Deer and dog, historically separated by millennia of evolution and the clear lines of prey and predator, lived together in a state of pure, unconditional harmony. Scientific mind might call this imprinting. The empathetic heart calls it love. It was a friendship built on touch, on scent, on the unwavering reliability of presence, the daily rituals that forge the deepest, most enduring connections. The bond transcended instinct. It defied the very natural laws that govern the wild. Pippin learned to play with the other dogs on the property, but Kate was always the center of her universe, the ultimate source of comfort. Every evening, as the sun dipped behind the trees, painting the sky in soft hues, the two would curl up together. This simple, profound image, a giant dog and a spotted fawn, intertwined, became the quiet, powerful affirmation of the sanctuary's mission. But the sanctuary had another mission, a duty to the wild spirit. The bond was beautiful, but Pippin was a deer, and eventually the call of the forest would come. The question was not if the wild would claim her, but how their hearts, so perfectly woven together, would survive the inevitable separation. Kate's eyes, full of ancient wisdom, seemed to already hold the knowledge of the coming loss. The unfolding bond was moving toward its natural, painful conclusion. As Pippin transitioned from a delicate fawn to a sleek, year-old deer, the sanctuary faced its greatest challenge, facilitating her return to the wild. This transition was the ultimate proving ground for the unconventional mother-daughter pair. Isabel and her family understood that their goal was never to domesticate Pippin, but to heal her and prepare her for the life she was meant to live. The bond they had witnessed was miraculous, but it could not, must not become a cage. The area around the sanctuary was fenced, but deliberate openings were created, gates left ajar to invite the inevitable. Pippin began to test these boundaries. Her innate curiosity about the dense forest beyond the familiar perimeter grew stronger with each passing week. She would stand at the edge of the clearing, sniffing the wind, feeling the pull of the wild deer that occasionally passed by. These were moments of profound tension for the human observers, watching their beloved friend grapple with her own primal identity. Every tentative step toward the woods felt like a small, necessary betrayal of the life she knew with Kate. Kate, sensing the shift, reacted with a quiet, persistent anxiety. She would follow Pippin to the fence line, not to restrain her, but to simply be there. The Great Dane seemed to understand the conflict. She would lie down near the gap, her huge head resting low, offering a silent anchor. Her message was clear. You are free to go, but I am here. The protective instinct of the guardian had transformed into the selfless love of a mother, allowing a child to find her own way. The first full night Pippin spent outside the gates was a night of long, agonizing vigil for the Phelps family. Kate did not sleep. She paced the perimeter, occasionally stopping to let out a low, mournful sigh that was barely audible. The wind carried the scents of the forest, the promise of freedom, but also the threat of the unknown. When Pippin returned at dawn, exhausted but exhilarated, the reunion with Kate was a silent burst of joy. The dog nudged her, licked her, and then promptly ushered her back toward the food and water bowl. These excursions grew longer and more frequent. Weeks turned into months. Pippin was successfully rewilding. She was finding her footing, learning the deer pathways, and recognizing the calls of her own species. The ultimate separation finally occurred in the late autumn. Pippin left one day, strong and vibrant, and did not return. The house felt empty, the absence of the delicate, spotted figure leaving a cavernous silence in Kate's favorite resting places. It was a grief that transcended species, a profound sorrow for a bond that had defied every law of nature to exist. Kate spent weeks waiting by the gate, her hope a tangible presence in the sanctuary. The proving ground had tested their connection, and while Pippin was free, the cost was immediate heartbreak. But a truly foundational bond is not broken by distance. It is only stretched. The separation was necessary, yet the memory of Kate's warmth remained a guiding light in the wild for Pippin. Then, as the leaves began to turn in the autumn of the following year, Isabel saw a familiar shape approaching the house. It was a mature deer, cautious and graceful, yet moving with an intentionality that was deeply recognizable. It was Pippin. She had returned. The sight of her, healthy and thriving in the wild, was a profound relief for the family. But the true emotional crest was yet to come. Kate, inside the house, seemed to know. She stirred from a deep sleep, her ears perked high, and moved immediately to the front window. A low, soft whine escaped her throat, a sound of recognition and pure, unadulterated longing. When Pippin stood a few yards from the house and let out a soft bleat, it was the sound of a daughter calling her mother home. Isabel opened the door, and the massive Great Dane trotted out, not with the rush of a domestic dog, but with the measured, reverent pace of a mother approaching a miracle. The two animals approached each other slowly, bridging the distance between the wild and the domestic, between dog and deer. There was no hesitation, no fear, only the triumphant recognition of an eternal bond. When they finally met, it was a torrent of silent communication. Kate nuzzled Pippin, licking her face and neck with the same gentle care she had shown the tiny fawn years before. Pippin leaned into the contact, pressing her body against Kate's side, seeking that same protective warmth she remembered from her youth. This was not mere habit. This was loyalty that transcended nature's curriculum. It was a demonstration that love, once truly given, can now rewrite the rules of existence. Pippin stayed for several days, re-immersing herself in the comforting routine of the sanctuary, always keeping Kate in sight. The visit was a gift, a promise fulfilled, proving that the love they shared was not just a phase, but a lifelong commitment that defied seasonal change and instinctual imperative. The annual return of Pippin became the ultimate testament to their enduring, unlikely relationship. Every autumn, as the chill deepened and the leaves fell, the familiar figure of the deer would emerge from the forest, completing a journey motivated not by need, but by memory. The story of Kate and Pippin became a quiet, powerful echo across the world, challenging the neat segmented boxes we use to define the natural world. It showed us that the most profound emotional truths often exist in the spaces between scientific classification, in the deep, instinctual wisdom of the animal heart. The bond was a lesson in selfless love. Kate asked for nothing in return for her nurturing. She simply provided the protective shelter and warmth that Pippin desperately needed. Pippin, for her part, demonstrated that freedom is not forgotten, but that loyalty can be a force stronger than the call of the wild. Their story is a modern fable, an affirmation that empathy is the original, universal language of all living things. It reminds us that the instinct to protect and to nurture is not limited by species, size, or evolutionary history, but resides in the shared capacity for love. The sanctuary became a pilgrimage site for those seeking to understand the limits of connection. In the quiet dignity of their annual reunion, we witness the purest form of relationship, a connection built on unconditional giving and the joyful certainty of being remembered. This profound narrative, playing out year after year, reminds us that while the wild asks us to let go, true love, like the bond between a Great Dane and a deer, finds its way back home, bridging the immense, silent gap between two worlds. We leave the sanctuary now, but the emotional echo of their friendship remains. The two different lives, stitched together by one act of compassion, prove that the most beautiful harmonies are often found where we least expect them, in the powerful, silent language of interspecies love. It is a story that reaffirms the profound potential for empathy across all species, asking us to recognize the deep, resilient well of love that resides in the natural world. Thank you for joining us on this journey. If this story moved you, please consider liking and subscribing. It truly helps us bring more stories like this to light. We have a question for you. What was the single moment in this story that resonated with you the most? Let us know in the comments below. We read every single one.